everyone. Welcome back to the Optimization Podcast. Or if you're watching on YouTube, welcome back. My name is Jenna, and today I have a special guest. This is Betsy, and she is a meditation expert, I would say. And I don't know if she'd call herself that, but she and I know each other from a mastermind that I help run here in the Twin Cities. And I've actually went to one of her meditation classes with Yasna, who I worked for a couple of months ago, and it was really, really helpful. And there's a lot of things I want to learn about meditation and the difference between that and mindfulness, as well as how we can sort of quiet our monkey mind, is what I've heard it be called before, where we're just, our brains are all over the place. So welcome, Betsy, to the podcast and YouTube channel, and if you'd like to introduce yourself a little bit more than I did.
Well, thanks so much. And thanks for inviting me. I'm happy, so grateful and happy to be here. Yeah, I guess I've been in the world of meditation and mindfulness for well over 20 years. I was a yoga teacher for over 20 years, and practitioner for even longer. So so it's been a part of really most of my adult life, teaching meditation and mindfulness, both from the standpoint of the Himalayan masters, so the tantric tradition. The tantric tradition is another arm of yoga. Oftentimes we've heard tantra as the yoga of sex. That's not what I study and practice, although power to those who do. That's great, no judgment. But it's a different version of that, if you will. It really has to do with how to channel and concentrate and contain your energy so that you can utilize it in the way that's most effective for you. So when you talk about optimization, that's really what it is. It's like, how do I channel this energy for myself? So I've been grateful to have been on the receiving end of learning those practices over these 20 plus years. And so that's the foundation of my practice, and practices, as well as what I've been teaching and mentoring, as well as something called yoga nidra, which is this deep practice of what's called yogic rest. It's not sleep, that's different, but a way to really train our bodies to rest. So you talk about the monkey mind, and certainly I'm sure we'll get into that, but this has been it will continue to be a lifelong journey for me, I know, but it has helped me in ways I can only, it would take a whole podcast to enumerate the ways in which it's helped me, but I certainly feel grateful that I have been able to share these practices with others. And as you mentioned, I feel like I'm here to help you fill your toolbox with the tools to help you understand yourself. And meditation is truly, I think, one of the best ways to do that. So I don't know if that was really, was
Yeah,
that
no,
about,
that's great.
does that help? Okay.
Yes. I have so many
Okay.
questions for you. Well, first of all, how did you get into this work? Like, you've been doing it for so long and you've continued to sustain the interest in it. I know a lot of people switch careers over the last, decades, but you seem like this is something that has really, really kept you going. How did you get started, and why do you keep continuing to do this work?
Yeah, great questions. I was living in Los Angeles. I moved there when I was 18. So it must have been when I was around 21-ish, really struggling with a lot of mental health issues at the time. And a friend of mine said, "Oh, you should come try this yoga class with me." And I was like, "Ugh, yoga, that's weird." Of course, this was like the early 90s, so it really wasn't as popular in the West, at least. So I went to a class with him and was totally blown away. I felt connected. It like immediately, when you go into a space and you feel like, oh, this kind of feels like I belong. And at that time, I really needed somewhere where I felt I belonged. Certainly living in Los Angeles too, big city, and right. So that was really my introduction. And the physicality of the practice at the time, I think, like a lot of people, you enter the practice of yoga from the physical place, certainly again on this side of the world. So that was my entrance as well. The practice that I did though was not what we would consider, what we see maybe as yoga as much now. Like it was an Ashtanga class, so very physical. There was no music or anything like that. It was a chant and invocation at the beginning of the class, and then you did this set series of poses. It was very physical. So I was young and I used to dance. So I'm like, oh, this feels good. So there was a meditative aspect, maybe. So that was really my entry into it. And you asked why I've sustained it or what has been about it. I think in this world, I want to say something that sounds so cliche, like I'm a seeker, but the truth is I am a seeker. I do want the knowledge, and knowing that there's this whole field, I guess you could call it the field of self-knowing or self-understanding, and these ancient practices that come from this incredible place and from these incredible teachers, gurus, lineages, and to feel like I'm never going to know it all, is really a good feeling. Like there's always something to implement or something else to learn. Or it's like, I think of it as like cutting a gem. You keep cutting the more facets, the brighter it shines. So I feel like it's just, I've continued because for that reason, the knowledge side of it, but also like I said, I've had the great fortune of teaching and mentoring and then working one-on-one with many clients, and watching people sort of find it for themselves is just the most rewarding thing ever. Not because it's about me, but I feel like I'm a vehicle for the information. So I think that really has continued to keep it going.
Yeah, and I think it's something that is not something that's like a trend. It's something that, cuz like some of these things that come and go, it's
Yeah.
like a trend, and I feel like meditation is something that has probably been occurring for thousands of years, and it's something that we have maybe not talked about. You're right, like here in the West, in the US, and different places, it's something that maybe we have only recently discovered here. But it's something that has been kind of what you said, an ancient practice of people being able to quiet the mind, and especially now in today's society where there's so much distraction. I know Yas and I talk about this all the time with the dopamine, and just like we are just constantly overwhelmed with information, that meditation is like more of a necessity than it's ever been. Can you kind of explain to us what meditation is? Because I feel like some people have maybe heard of it, but maybe don't really know what it is and like what it helps with, and maybe how it works in our brain.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. I'd say there's probably many definitions of meditation. I would say that the sort of yogic definition, right, would be to quiet the spinning of the mind. This is a very traditional yogic definition from the Yoga Sutras, which literally states, the state of yoga is the cessation of the spinning of the mind. So this would meditation would be the tool by which you can access that. Um, but that is maybe not the definition for every meditation. So I would say that meditation is any practice that you're doing where you give yourself permission to sit and be in a state where you're not attached to whatever's going on, sound, sensation, feeling, thinking. And so I hesitate though, because I think that we can conflate what meditation is versus what it does. And I think that can get a little blurred. But I think meditation is a specific practice. Certainly, the Buddhist practices of meditation as well have a little different aims, although the outcome ultimately is the same. And I'm not a Buddhist, so I can't speak. I know just enough to be dangerous. But in my limited knowledge, the access to the self, the true self that exists outside of the perception of our personality, outside of the perception of how we see ourselves in the world. Um, so I don't know. That was maybe a lengthy definition, but yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question that, well, I have like, again, I have like a million questions because it's like something I'm new to, so I don't know the answers. But I know there's like different types of meditation. There's guided, there's silent, there's lots of different ways. Can you kind of explain like what it like and then there's questions of like how long should you meditate? Like what should you be thinking? Like I have all these questions because it's like, when I'm meditating, I'm still my brain is still like going places, and I'm like, how do I get it so that it doesn't just randomly creep to a different thought or something? Like I think the goal is to just not think about other things, right? Or is that like, I guess I'm curious how to get to that point and how long maybe that takes. So these are like 8 questions, but I'm
yeah.
just, if you want to start at any of them, like if there's any answers that you could give me, otherwise we'll keep going.
No, I think you're asking really great questions. And so here's a multitude of answers. How's that? And you can
Sounds
you
good.
can take whatever you want from it. There are numerous types of meditation. So we have to look at it from the standpoint of most meditation for most people, most of the time is going to be some form of concentration. So I'm concentrating or focusing, let's say, on my breath, or I'm concentrating or focusing on my breath in a specific place, maybe the tip of my nose or my chest or my belly. Um, so concentrating, I'm giving my mind something to focus on, whether it's, let's say, a mantra, a sound, maybe it's om or peace or joy, or so. It doesn't have to be a Sanskrit word, it could be anything. Maybe it's a body scan where I'm scanning my body to help my body relax. So let's maybe tease out meditation takes different forms. Most people, most of the time, some form of concentration. Why do you do that? Because you can't you can't ask your mind to stop thinking. Not really. It's doing what it's supposed to do. You wouldn't ask your heart to stop beating or your
Sure.
body to stop digesting or right, your endocrine system to I mean, you can't. So the mind is doing its job. I think one of the things that what we're accessing when we come into these places, let's say of concentration or meditation, let's put them side by side maybe, is let me give my mind something to focus on. So all the other stuff that's pulling me aside, that's going to sort of fade into the distance a little bit. It might still be there, but it's not front and center, right? So now let's say I've given myself a mantra like peace. Okay. So now I'm giving my mind something to do, peace. I'm just going to repeat the phrase peace, see what happens. Well, it might be I say peace silently two or three times, then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I forgot that I needed to go to the dry cleaner today and I didn't, right? And then you go, oh wait, I'm supposed to be saying peace, right? And so you do that 100,000 times. That is the practice. You are
Mm-hmm.
practicing for how to attenuate yourself to focus when you have those moments of bringing yourself back. It's the friction of saying, "Oh, I was off on a tangent. I just need to come back." So now you're offering yourself compassion and some grace and some space. And eventually what happens is those spaces become maybe a little bit bigger. Now I have a little more pause. I can see between my thoughts. I have a different relationship to my thoughts. So, I say to students all the time and clients, like the Dalai Lama still meditates like hours a day. There's no end point. There's no magic day where you wake up and you're like, today's the day my mind is empty. It's unrealistic to ask your mind to not do what it's supposed to do. What you're doing is teaching, just like any other muscle, you're training your mind. Actually, we're focusing on the sound or on the breath or on the body or whatever it is you're giving your mind to focus on. So that's sort of one side of how and why. And the answer to when does it does when it does. Some days are great and you're like, oh my God, that was a great. And some days are not. The days when they're not are actually the days you learn the most. Like how much grace can I give myself? How much compassion can I offer myself? How much, and you ask how much time. I mean, I tell clients all the time, I think the best way to start a meditation practice is to take one intentional breath every morning when you get up. That's it. Start there. Be present in the inhale, present in the exhale. See how that goes for 30 days. So I don't know. Did that answer like
Yeah, no, that
four of
brings
the
up that,
eight?
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that brings up a lot. Yeah, like again, I have like whenever you say something, I have like 8 follow-up questions. But I mean, breathing is a huge part of it, and I'm curious on that because you're right. Like I think getting getting your mind to focus on one thing is a struggle that a lot of us have in this world. And I kind of talked about the monkey mind and all that. It's kind of like working out for your brain. Is that like what I don't know if you've ever used that, where it's like every day, like working out isn't something you do once and then never do again. Like it's something that it's like a journey. You have to continue to work out, move your body. It's kind of the same with, it's like meditation is like working out for your brain. Would you say that's like a good comparison?
Yeah, it's a work in, not a work
Okay.
out,
Oh, I
right?
like
It's a
that. Yeah.
work in, right? And so yeah, there definitely is. You're training that muscle. You're training your mind to just have a different relationship. You're not going to force your mind to stop thinking. You literally can't. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to work with the thinking mind, and every mind is totally different. So some practices may work for some people better for a period of time. Other practices may work better for others. Like again, there's just you talked so much about the toolbox, and I love that because that's something that I talk about a lot. Like you want to fill up that toolbox. How many tools can I possibly give myself to really concentrate and contain my energy so that I'm moving through the world in this intentional way?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so we could go a few different routes. One thing I want to talk about is what is the, I guess, what should you, gosh, there's like 8 questions. Is there a moment where you feel like you have achieved meditation in a sense where it's like you feel like you've maybe hit a sense of like that mindfulness or the where you're like I'm completely calm or my brain has kind of like calmed down. Does that happen or is it more of just like you are just slowly transitioning to that point and are never able to quite get there or like I guess I don't know like if there's like if I like after I leave a meditation session I'm like did that do anything like that's a question I always had like did this actually work like I don't even know like is there like a feeling that you're like oh I feel like I achieved a meditative state today.
I mean, I would throw the question back at you. What do you, right? What's your litmus test of whether it's worked or not? What are
I
your
guess
parameters?
I don't know because I think I've only started doing it recently, so maybe I'm so new to it that but I think the thing for me that I would like to achieve is that feeling of total peace or the feeling of like where I don't have any external thoughts about something. I think that to me is what I want to achieve is maybe a minute or two where I don't have those bouncing thoughts and just really achieving that sense of like very present moment. And I don't I think that's kind of what I'm trying to achieve, but it's like I don't know if I wonder if that can sustain over longer periods as you go where you have that like total sense of nothing's in my head for a minute or two. I mean that would be amazing, you know.
I mean, so there's a few interesting ways to go, but I guess the first thing I would say is no. How's that?
Mm. Okay,
Because
that's a good answer.
as many of my teachers have told me over the years, um, uh, if you think you're in that state, you're not,
Mm.
because you're associating now with here I am having the experience of, and that I guess would negate the
True, yeah,
experience,
that's
right?
true,
Right.
yeah.
So, however, and what I will say, and maybe what I'm hearing through what you're saying is there a point where I'm not reacting to my thoughts or I'm
Yes,
not pulled by my thoughts
yeah.
so much? Is that
Mm.
accurate?
That's kind of what I feel like I'm trying to achieve, right? Is yeah, is the constant mind switching of thoughts and really trying to allow myself more consistent, yeah, focus, like you mentioned, concentration about something that isn't the random popcorn brain that I always say I have. You know, the monkey mind. Like I call it the popcorn brain because it's like I have a
That's
random popcorn,
amazing.
popcorn thought. I almost called my podcast like popcorn brain a couple years ago because I'm like I think it's such a great it's like all of a sudden it's like there's a piece of popcorn that pops up and you're like, "Oh, I have this random thought because you were thinking of something else." And then all of a sudden this thought just comes into your head. And I think my goal with meditation is to not have that happen so much. I think that's my goal is to have like my thoughts just be about being present and it's very hard for me to do that. And I think that's why I've struggled with meditation for many years is I I can't even get to the point where I sit for 10 minutes and I'm like my brain is almost more on overdrive because I'm like I'm taken out of what I'm doing and then all of a sudden I start thinking of all the things I need to be doing and I'm like oh I'm spending 10 minutes doing this like I should be doing other things I should like I prioritizing but like I've really set it up in my calendar now I'm like I just today set up a alarm at 8:45 a.m. I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes like that like I'm setting it up so that I'm actually intentional about it And then being like, there is nothing in those 10 minutes that's going to distract me. I'm putting it down to actually make sure that it actually happens, and that I'm not like freaking out that I'm spending too much time on this. So that's just how I do it. But it's just like
Right.
it's being intentional, and it's like I guess my question, I guess maybe this is the question, is what is the goal of meditation then? Like, what is the reason why we should do it? Because for me it might be different than somebody else, but I don't know what your answer is, or what people have told you what is their answer about what meditation even is.
Yeah. Wow, that's a big, there's a lot of answers to that one, right?
Yeah.
Um, you know how sometimes like the snake oil salesman is like, drink this snake oil, it's gonna fix everything that ails you. I almost feel like meditation has a little bit of that quality, but it's not snake oil. It actually works, right? Is it
Mm-hmm.
going to fix everything that ails you? No, but um, it's going to again be a tool in your toolbox that allows you to move through your life with more intentionality, less reactivity, a sense of better self-understanding. So what are the reasons or the goals? I tend to not think in the realm of goals, especially around meditation, because I mean, it's again sort of going back to the text of the Yoga Sutras that says that we should approach our practice with two things. The two things are devotion, so over a period of time. So there's a discipline, as one of my teachers and one of my mentors says, discipline with devotion. So I'm committed to this for a period of time. I would add in the devotion piece because of my mentor. So, um, but with no attachment to the outcome. I'm doing this to do it. Why? The why is to know myself better. The why is to understand myself better. If I understand myself better, if I know the truth of who I am outside of this world of perception that I live in, I will undoubtedly feel stronger, more connected, less reactive, more peaceful, clearer, more focused. I mean, the list goes on and on. Will it fix everything that bothers me in my life? No, but it will change my relationship to everything that bothers me in my
Mm.
life. And I think that's the shift. I hear what you're saying, and certainly, you know, one of my very well known meditation teachers, Jack Cornfield, who's one of the founders of the of Spirit Rock and Insight Meditation Center, I believe. He talks about, we all kind of want to break from ourselves. Like we're just when we feel depressed, anxious, that feeling of like, oh, if I could just escape my mind, if I could just escape these negative thoughts or this frustration or whatever it is, the escape hatch in some ways, not to escape your life, but to escape your relationship to those thoughts is through some sort of practice of meditation, let's say. So, will it change how you think? Maybe over time. It may not. I don't know. I have no idea. What I do know is, and maybe how you could potentially say, is this working? Am I not reacting as strongly, or do I have more patience with myself outside of my sitting practice? Forget the practice itself. It's everywhere else it shows up in your life.
Mm.
Am I a little more patient with somebody who I have difficulty with? Do I have a little more compassion for that person and for myself? Do I am I taking a break somewhere else in my day and taking a deep breath before I have to have a conversation? Do I feel like a different it's to me it's about changing the relationship between myself and the thoughts that I'm having versus the thoughts themselves disappearing. The thoughts are
Mm.
never going to disappear, they just won't. So how can I move back far enough to see, right? I mean, how many metaphors can we use? Like the
Mhm.
waves on the ocean, but I can see the whole ocean. I love that you said popcorn, because so then you're like, okay, well, how can I be the container?
Mm.
How could I be the container? And let's take it further. Am I the oil and the popcorn seed? And then let's take it further. Am I the earth itself? Let's take it further. Am I the ether of which all things came and all things will dissolve? I mean, so how far you want to go is sort of up to you. I think when I first started, I just wanted to not be so depressed. I
Mm,
wanted to not hate myself. Literally. I'm like, I'm done hating myself. This is too painful. I was in the throes of a really severe eating disorder, anorexia, orthorexia, hated myself, couldn't find, even with my meditation practices and yoga and all of these other things in my life at the time, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So to me, it was like grasping onto something to say, what can I do? Now, it didn't happen overnight. Like you said, it wasn't like the next day. I didn't wake up and go, woo, I'm all better. I feel great. It took years of what I would almost say failing at it, right?
mm,
I suck at this. I can't sit. I can't, my mind is all over the place. Popcorn, it's everywhere, right? So that was maybe step one. Eventually, I think I got to the point where I felt like, wait a second, what's going on here? What's underneath all of this? How do I get in touch with that? And in that space, that feeling of compassion, loving kindness, if I have that for myself, how can I move that out into the world? And so it's taken years. Um, and and like you said, sort of like, well, what's my goal? I want to not be depressed. Well, the minute I was like, well, I might be depressed, to me, that was when it switched. I
mm,
was like, well, maybe I'm going to feel depressed. I
mm.
guess I'm going to have some love and compassion for that part of myself. So it was like, I don't know, that was all over the place.
Yeah,
But
no,
does that help at
that does
all
make sense.
answer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like meditation is not the goal, it's the tool that you have to do all the other parts of your life basically. It's like I think that's kind of reshifting and reframing it for me personally because it's like, oh, I have to be good for those 10 minutes and then I'm good. It's like I'm putting so much work and effort into the actual 10 minutes when it's actually no, the 10 minutes are the training ground for the rest of my life, and it's slowly going to change me as a person and as the way that I am relating to things or reacting to things, like you said. I think one of the things I want to talk about a little bit is the thoughts that you said that you were struggling with the negative thoughts. How has meditation changed that? And do you use things like affirmations or what are the things that you tell yourself to change the negative thoughts away from, oh, I'm too fat or whatever the thoughts you had at that time, to change into, and now you've been doing this for so long that it's just it's your new life of the way that you think now.
Yeah. Yeah, there were some affirmations for sure. There were affirmations about things like I have to love myself as I am right now. So instead of trying to change something or make it different. Again, there's nothing wrong with setting goals. I'm not saying to anybody, don't set a goal for yourself. You should and can, and nobody's can't tell anybody else how to do it. For me, it was if I'm going to change this relationship, I'm going to have to love myself. So if I feel like I can't with the personality that I have right now, because of, let's say, what society taught me, what my parents taught me, what I learned, I mean, whatever, from just being alive in the world and being a woman in a woman's body, right? So there's that side of it too. If I'm going to love her and I feel like I can't when I'm in it, like it's too close, what would somebody who loves me say? What would my best friend say? So there were meditation, there's a beautiful Buddhist practice called metta, which is a loving kindness meditation. And it's just a beautiful, incredibly powerful practice about offering love to others, compassion, loving kindness, and wishing for their well-being. And then eventually they offer it back to you. So there was a period of time where it was just me sitting and literally like seeing my best friend and my mentor and like some ancestors, you know, sitting and telling me the things that I couldn't tell myself because it felt like a lie. It felt like I was like, oh, no, not until you look like this or sound like this or have this or whatever. So there was a long period of time of like, I'm going to have to just sit here and listen to people who love me tell me they love me in some way. So sat with that, which was real uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's hard. It's hard
right?
to it's hard
Right?
to hear it's hard to hear good things when you won't accept it sometimes.
Yeah,
Honestly,
right?
like you don't believe it for a long time until you do. Like it just has to wear at you. I don't know why I keep picturing like an ice sculpture and someone just like chiseling away at you. Like that's what I think meditation kind of is. It's like a chisel into the to make you into the person that you're supposed to be, and you're taking away those layers that the world maybe has put on you. And I think that you know, we as people are like we are sent so many messages every day, and it's kind of like counteracting then I guess the negative ones, or the ones that you tell yourself, or the ones that the world tells you. And I think meditation is getting back to the center of who you actually are, and figure out who you are. And I know that, you know, I want to make sure we talk a little bit more also about the actual physical tangible things that we can do today with meditation, like kind of getting back to what can we actually do today to get started. Like what are the tips and tricks and hacks that you have to actually doing meditation? I'll share mine, and if you have some additional ones, I just want people to leave this and be like, all right, I know about meditation now what do I do? For me, I made a space in my room. I put up some like fake candles, I bought a rug, a $15 rug at Home Goods, and I like little made a little corner in my room, and then I have the Insight Timer app, and then I have a sleep mask that I put on to help me focus. But those are my tools that I use to get into that state. But you know what's funny? The other day I actually did it in my car. I had a 15 minutes. I got someplace early, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna meditate in my car. Like, so it's like you can do it anywhere. But for me, it's like setting up an actual intentional space for myself that is like calling to me to be like, go sit there and meditate for 10 minutes, and then also putting it on my calendar. That for me has been really helpful for actually putting it into practice. Do you have any tips, or if people ask you like, how do I get started meditating? What do you tell people that they should start with?
Yeah, no, I love that you said that too. I think there's a lot of different ways in, and certainly having a something tangible to do. So, a couple things, and we talked about this earlier too, like the difference between meditation and mindfulness. So, you can apply mindfulness to anything you're doing at any time. That is a form of meditation, mindfulness meditation. Remembering that meditation, the actual state, let's say, of meditation is like, I don't know, let's say connection with the divine or connection with oneness. So maybe not while you're chopping vegetables, although maybe you could. But mindfulness is a tool that you could use right now. What does that mean? You feel the weight of your toothbrush in your hand. You look at the color of the toothpaste. You see and hear the sound of the water. You feel so really mindful, intentional around anything you're doing. If you're chopping vegetables, how does it feel in my hand? What's the weight of the knife I'm holding? What's the temperature in this room right now? Tuning into where you are in the present moment is the gift of meditation. It is the gift of that spaciousness. And so starting is literally can be as simple as how can I be more mindful? Don't look at your phone when you're walking. Do one thing at a time. Just do the thing you're doing. Give it some attention because you deserve it, and so does the thing you're doing. Um, for a lot of people, though, that I've worked with, clients especially, where they say, oh, I'm too busy or I don't have time. One perfect breath. Wake up in the morning, put your feet flat on the floor, take an inhale, take an exhale. 30 days, literally. Just take a breath. That's it. Start there if it feels like too much. What often happens is, well, I sat up, I took a breath, but then I felt like I wanted to take a couple more. Great. Then you wanted to take a couple more. That's fantastic. You're starting to carve out that time. You did something really intentional, which is like, I'm setting my alarm. I set up a space. You know, the more like we know about habits, the more we can remove the things that'll get in the way between us and forming that new habit, the better it is. And we create positive association. So, yeah, setting up a little table, a little space, maybe lighting a candle, maybe there's a piece of music that will sort of get you there, you know, something like that. A lot of people like to use apps. Insight Timer is great. There's Calm, there's Headspace, there's a number of apps out there. I personally am not a huge proponent of apps necessarily, but I think at first it's great. Sometimes it just again, there's just
Mm-hmm.
different there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. I think finding a good teacher, a meditation teacher, and taking some intro to meditation classes or learning different ways. There's a number of Buddhist centers. If you're interested in Buddhist meditation, Common Grounds is one of them. So there's places to go also, but setting up a space, certainly setting a timer if that works for you. Those are things that you can do. Yeah, like you said, in your car, even if it's, like I said, take a deep breath before you get out of the car, or that to me, it all counts. It all counts.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that
Yeah, no,
tangible
that's
enough? I
really
don't know.
helpful. And
Okay.
I want to ask you too, because I know that you teach meditation, right?
Yeah.
You do that. So how, if people were interested in learning more from you,
Yeah.
how do you work with people, and what are some of the programs that you have available?
Yeah. Well, so I'm just finishing up a 4-week intro to meditation series right now. It's been online and just 30 minutes. I record the session. So if you can't make the session, it gets sent to you. Um, and just literally teaching people. We do practice. We talk a little bit about the practice. We do the practice super straightforward, really simple practices, nothing fancy. It's not super long. So that's one way. If you live in Minnesota, if you're in the Minneapolis area, I teach once a month out of my house a community meditation. It's limited in size just because it's at my house, but I'm always happy to put cushions on the floor and bring up some folding chairs so people are welcome. And it's really lovely to meditate in community. You've been to a meditation, so you know too that there's an energetic difference
Mm-hmm.
when it's a group of people together. And then working one on one. So I work one on one with clients. It's just depending on time, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, depending on what they need. And we literally, just like a doctor would give a prescription, I sort of give you a meditation prescription, and we work with that for a period of time. There's breath work involved as well. And, it's been really beneficial, I think, for everyone. It's beneficial for me too, because I get to hear feedback in real time from people saying, hey, I'm really struggling with this. And then we have an opportunity to sort of talk that through. Um, but I just, I can't state enough just the importance of, how you're going to show up for yourself. And like I was saying about my mentor, that discipline, but really with devotion for yourself, to
Mm.
love yourself enough to show up for yourself like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is so I love this episode already, so I'm really excited for everyone to hear it, because I'm like, this is so different. It's
Yay.
different than things I usually talk about, but I'm excited because it's like, this to me is something I think a lot of people can use, like everyone can use. It's free. It's
Yeah.
something, like, it's, you don't have to pay for it. Like, you literally, you can do it wherever you can. It can be as short or as long as you want. It's something that you can do for the rest of your life. I know
Yeah.
some people wake up early and do it. Some people do it, there's lots of different ways to do it. So there's no one right answer for, oh yeah, you have to do it this way. And I think that's the point of this is, it's based off of how you yourself work best. It can be customized. And I love that you work with people and figure out what works best with them, because you're right. Like, there's no one size fits all. Like, some people like need an hour, some people need 30 seconds, it's like figuring, I don't know, like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like figuring out what you need. And I think we are constantly, like you said at the beginning, you're like, I'm a seeker. I'm trying to understand myself, and figure out myself the best. And that's what I am as well, is I'm trying to figure out what is the best thing for me. What is the best way that I can utilize this tool, like all the other tools in our tool belt, to make my life as good as possible. I mean, that's just that's just that's why I'm pursuing meditation, pursuing it at this point,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, no, and thank you for saying that. I think it's just a powerful reflection of, we can get really caught up in like, well, it's so selfish. What do you mean? But the truth is, if we know ourselves better and love ourselves completely as we are in this moment and give ourselves permission to be in the present moment so we don't miss it, we show up for the world so much better. We show up with more compassion. We show up with more understanding. We're learning to listen to ourselves so we can listen to other people better as well. So I think we have to kind of switch that mindset of like, it's selfish, but no,
Mm.
it's not. We spend plenty of time trying to learn about relationships with other people. Let's spend even just a little bit of time in relationship to ourselves. You mentioned something about chipping away at an ice sculpture, this idea of chipping away to reveal what's there. So meditation really is not anything you're adding. It's not an addition to your life. In many ways, meditation and what it does is a subtraction. It's subtracting who you're not to reveal who you really are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so true. Well, Betsy, how do we
Yeah.
find you online? What are all of your ats, your links, so we
Yeah.
can go follow you?
Well, my website is great. It's a great way to connect. It's just betsyweiner.com, BetsyWeiner, BetsyWeiner.com. And then I'm on Instagram at Betsy L. Weiner. I'm on Facebook. It's just my name, Betsy Weiner. And then I'm not on Twitter. I'm sort of on TikTok, but not really. I don't know. So that's where to
Awesome.
find
You need to
me.
get on
Yeah.
YouTube. That's the next one for you. You should be on
Oh,
YouTube.
okay. You'll help me. You'll help me
Yes,
with that.
yes. I was
I
gonna
need
say, like,
you.
I feel like you would be so great at doing like hour-long like sessions where people could just listen or something. I feel like that would be a cool video, is just you walking through some sort of, I don't know, meditation would be kind of cool.
Great. You're
I would listen.
hired. You're hired, Jenna. You can help me.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much
no
for the
worries. Yes,
opportunity.
thank
Thank
you for
you.
coming, and thanks everyone for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye.